Well, looks like we got some friends that are joining us on YouTube.
Yes, we're slowly getting started here.
And we'd like to welcome you in, and we'll do some introductions as more and more people get watching. We are coming to you live, YouTube Live, and on WTOL 11+, and it is so great to see everybody. I got Chief Meteorologist Chris Vickers here, along with...
Meteorologist Diane Phillips.
And meteorologist John Birchfield. We got three of us and happy to be here. We've been forecasting the storm still on track for later this afternoon, but it's been a pretty decent, nice spring feeling day. I hope you enjoyed those couple hours of sunshine and milder temps.
Can somebody remind me what month we are in? We're in the middle of January, correct?
That's what everything says, yeah.
This is truly incredible. So once again, as we welcome more and more viewers in, if you have comments and you're watching us on YouTube, we're going to enable the comment section because we want you to interact with this. If you have any questions, we will be monitoring that. Our digital team, which is just fantastic, is going to make sure that we stay connected, not only with you, but to keep you safe and alert to thunderstorms that are coming in. And if you look at our alert day today, we're going to say now-ish. We're still about 60 minutes away from some of these kind of teasing the southwest edge of our viewing area. They're going to be quick-moving storms moving through 5, 6, 7 o'clock. It's going to be a very tight window, but we want you to be prepared for that one, and we want you to be alert to that. So we've got many people watching YouTube Live and also on WTOL 11+. Pretty cool way to stay connected, isn't it?
Yes, it's the future, really. Of course, we have social media, and we've all been updating our pages. And the app, I'm sure you guys have, in your pocket, your phone going off. So we've been busy, of course, doing all of the pushes, video updates, and also that severe thunderstorm watch. That came through on the app.
Yeah, the storms have really been bubbling up within the last couple of hours. I know at about 12 noon, radar was quiet, and because of the sun we got today, that actually fueled the storms to develop and begin to gain intensity. And if you've looked at radar on that WTOL 11 weather app, you're seeing those storms moving in now to north and northeastern Indiana, getting awfully close to the Buckeye State here.
Pretty incredible that we're talking storm threats. And when we look at the atmosphere, I mean, for days now, we've been kind of just dissecting what is actually going on here. Some things you don't normally talk about or think about in January. We're talking about instability. We're talking about wind shear. We talk about even more nerdy things we like to say, like storm relative helicity. What on earth does that mean? It means the potential for spinning in the atmosphere. Some indications that is a small concern if we were to get storms that develop into what we call an unseasonably moist and unstable atmosphere for this point in January. So bottom line is, because we could talk a little bit more freely with you here on YouTube Live and on WTOL 11+, have more time to explain things. We have an environment, John, that's more like, March or April, we would say, John, Diane?
Yeah, this is more semblant of a spring severe weather type setup as opposed to one in January. And getting this severe weather risk in January is extremely unusual. It's been a number of years since we've had any severe risk in January. And this is not just any, but what we call an enhanced risk. So that's something we're on high alert for. And we issued that alert date to give you an advance notice of this risk of severe weather. And that orange region that you see southeast of Toledo, that is where we're pinpointing the greatest risk for bad storms to develop.
So, Diane, you break this down for me, too, because you actually have some information. This bullseye of potential severe storms right across Ohio. How rare is this? Kind of put it into context for us.
That's the thing. A lot of us were looking at this because it's January. Talking severe weather in January, it's not often that we have that bullseye overhead, and, of course, even in our neighborhood. And that enhanced risk that John was discussing, this is the first time we've seen that enhanced risk in the month of January. So this is definitely that rare winter yet summer kind of storm system, because though the calendar says, hey, it's January, the atmosphere says something else. And that's why, though, we still have those, the alert day out there. Also, that enhanced risk that we have. Of course, that is including our southern counties. You're going to find that through quite a few of them, thus sparking that severe thunderstorm watch. So the watch is going to go until 7 o'clock tonight, and we got that issued about 2 o'clock. So that means that, it's time to kind of think about what we should be doing as far as prep.
So this is wild. I had all these really cool text box features that were enabled on here that explained all this. And when we changed systems, they all disappeared on me.
Technology.
I've got gremlins in the system, but the team's doing a great job breaking this down. So yes, it is an enhanced storm risk. Diane, you mentioned the southern half of our viewing area is under a severe thunderstorm watch. John, this is still 7 o'clock. What are you expecting? How are you expecting this to unfold over the next few hours?
So right now we're looking at radar trends, and what we've seen across Indiana is that there is some heavy downpours in these storms. There were a few severe thunderstorm warnings issued. So the biggest impacts other than the rain are going to be, of course, the strong straight line winds. We're talking about how these storms are going to come racing on through. They're going to be quick movers. In fact, they'll get through our viewing area from, say, the Indiana-Ohio state line to Cleveland in a matter of about 3 hours. So they're going to be moving quickly, and thus high winds will be a concern out of this. Of course, also some small hail is possible, and Chris did mention some of the parameters are suggesting a little bit of turning in the atmosphere, and that's not to say the tornado threat is high, but it's something that we're keeping a close eye on, and the tornado threat's greater than 0. And anytime there's any tornado threat, of course, it's something we take very seriously.
All right, so I'm looking at my watch right now. At the present time right now, we're nearing about 3:15. So I'm thinking, all right, I got to get the kids from school. They got to get to practice. Dinner's got to get done. We're running here. We're running there. So let's talk hour by hour timing. John, you mentioned this. It's a pretty tight window. So just about an hour from now, that's when we expect those storms to be arriving in the southwest corner of our viewing area. They're going to be coming out of Van Wert and Lima, so Allen and Paulding County. That's where the storm threat's going to be greatest, right around 4 o'clock. So this is pretty much after most schools have let out for the day. Between 4 and 5 o'clock, John, not out of the question, some of these storms could be moving probably 40 to 50 miles per hour.
Yep.
Look at how quickly they make their way from the southwest corner of our viewing area. And Diane, by the evening drive, we're looking at right along the I-75 corridor.
Yeah, this is when a lot of us are getting out of work. Maybe we're going to some of those late after work appointments. Maybe we're also, though, thinking, okay, I don't want to cook tonight. Let's get takeout. So this is even something that's going to be, though you may think that you don't have plans, if you're still going to be running out and about, you're going to notice that these storms are still going to be impactful no matter what your plans are this evening. The thing is, though, is it's fast moving. So one, don't let it sneak up on you. Have the WTOL 11 weather app. Have that radar open if you're going to venture out there. Of course, watch for that line. Stay inside as that moves through. Just kind of hold tight. It won't be very long, and then it'll be on and just moved out, and then you'll be in okay shape. So just wait for that line to pass on through, because yeah, any evening plans that you have here through 7 o'clock, that's when you're going to maybe see some disruptions to your plans, and nobody likes disruptions in their plans.
It's tough, especially when you're talking storms, thunderstorms in January. A moment maybe to get a little nerdy with some of our friends that are kind of joining in right now. So we're going to stop our hour-by-hour forecast 5 o'clock here. A few things that we're concerned about, and we've been looking at the data, this portion or structure of this line of thunderstorms, and we're going to say anywhere from about Route 6 in and around Bowling Green south through Seneca County into Wyandotte and Crawford County. This could be an area that exhibits a high likelihood of straight line winds and the most likelihood, guys, to maintain that storm strength. John, something that we were looking at, Diane, as well. We look at storm energy, which the measure for that is something called CAPE. And high values of CAPE that could exceed 400 to 500 joules per kilogram, which would be something that we'd maybe more typically see in an early spring setting. Yeah. Never in my experience or expectations have I seen this in the month of January. So bottom line is that CAPE, or storm energy, where we have the sunshine out right now that's building that storm strength, this is the area that we're most concerned about some of those straight line wind damage. The northern flank of this one, a little concerned about how the model's depicting this. We may get what we call a bookend vortex that will show up on the northern extent of this one. And if you'll notice here too, some of these notches, it's just incredible how we can model the potential of this. Some of these notches, potentially there could be some rotation that gets exhibited in these notches. It's at least modeled at this point to be working across the Route 24 corridor, perhaps into Wood County. Rotation within that area, not out of the question. And when we mention a weak tornado, that is a possibility where we could get some tornado warnings, potentially where we may be covering at least the indications of rotation. So a little bit of a breakout session of what may be happening later this afternoon, just a couple hours from right now.
Yeah, I also think it's important to reiterate that no matter where you live, even if you're in the Toledo metro, we talked about how the severe risk is greater to the south, but there's nobody who's going to be totally immune to the threat for thunderstorms. So if you live in Lucas County, of course the threat's greater south of the Maumee River, but Toledo could still very well get some strong to severe storms. Even southeastern Michigan, not totally out out of the question that there are a few more potent thunderstorms. But as Chris pointed out, that straight line wind threat, the instability, the sunshine, the ingredients are a little better to the southeast of the metro in areas such as Wyandotte and Crawford County. They got the warm front a little earlier, had a little more clearing, warmer temperatures, and thus more conducive environment to seeing those straight line winds.
Yeah, already at 10 o'clock, we were pulling on our sunglasses, the further south. So though it's been an extra time as far as the afternoon, now it's kind of that weather aware time. So we got to switch gears.
Talk the end of this, Diane. So now we're getting after dark now, 6 to 7 o'clock. Who's going to be under the risk at this point, and where do we go from this point?
Right. So the 6, 7 o'clock hour, it's going to mainly be that threat east to 75. So you're going to see if you're in Erie, Huron County, you're not in the clear at this point. We'll still be watching kind of our further east communities. That's where you're going to be finding your severe weather threat at that time. Also, that northern flank that Chris was talking about, that will also still be into play in the later half of our time frame that we've been talking, that 3 to 7, closer to that 6 to 7 o'clock time frame. So we'll see that getting close to the metro and then even headed out towards the state line right there in that corner where Lake Erie kind of wedges in there. And then that will head out towards our lakeshore communities and even our folks there out on the islands. So we'll continue to keep monitoring that even through the evening. Of course, our newscast will go through 6:30 and then we'll switch at 7 o'clock to Fox 36. But of course, we're going to continue to monitor this all through the evening as well.
Yep. If there's any bit of good news, though, I know folks get very nervous about severe weather, especially when it happens in the evening and at night. But the good news is by the time you go to bed tonight, there's not going to be any threat of severe weather. By about 9 to 10, we're going to get the influx of some colder air. And you see that blue on the hour-by-hour forecast. Are you telling me we're going to go from severe weather to snow in a matter of hours? I think so.
Yeah, you'll wake up tomorrow morning. It's going to be more of a winter-like setting, some snow flurries. We're not really talking anything that's going to be accumulating, but we'll be back in the 30s. Wind chills will be in the 20s as colder air enters into the area. It may dust some elevated surfaces where we get maybe a more persistent snow shower, but overall that accumulation would likely be about a half an inch or less. So we'll wrap up some of the threats that we have, generally speaking, and our full team is on agreement with this one. We're not expecting a widespread tornado risk, and where we could see a little rotation, could we get a tornado warning that we end up covering live on air? Absolutely. And know that the WTOL 11 weather team will be there for you if you're watching YouTube live right now or on WTOL 11 Plus. We'll make sure that we get you connected to that information. Wind damage would likely be the biggest threat. Wind gusts of 50 to perhaps 60 miles per hour, reaching that severe criteria. And any hail, generally speaking, is going to be small. Pea-sized to penny-sized hail would be the most likely outcome. Very cool features. We kind of give you a little bit of tutorial on our WTOL 11 weather app, another great way to stay connected. Perhaps if you were able to get some storm pictures tonight or storm damage, if you could do so safely, a great opportunity is you could submit those photos in just a couple clicks. You go to the bottom of that WTOL 11 weather app, and there's going to be a spot that you can click, and that spot is going to be right there. It says select more, and you can upload a photo and hit submit, and we'll get that right to the WTOL 11 weather team. So great opportunity where we could keep you connected and communicate essentially in almost real time back and forth through that WTOL 11 weather app. Rare storm threat though this evening. We want everyone to be on their toes for this one, Diane.
Yes, and of course, we're going to continue to cover this even as this gets closer. I'm sure Chris will have that radar coming up here. And of course, like I said, if you're going to be out and about this evening, you do have plans, just check radar before you head out. If you can wait just a little bit, it'll be well worth it because we'll be watching that line. And John, you said those impacts, they're going to be there. This is, some stronger storms that we're watching.
Already seeing a few lightning strikes start to push into north and northwest Ohio. Of course, this is still a little bit out of reach, closer to Lima, but I do see a little bit of lightning there south of Fort Wayne near Muncie, and this will be here in just a couple hours. So stay on high alert, and we'll keep you posted. Yeah,
a couple fresh lightning strikes, John, that are just showing up. I'll enlarge them a little bit. Yeah. And they do have some cluster, but overall, this is looking a little messy. We got 16 lightning strikes anywhere from just east of Muncie, Indiana, over to the Ohio-Indiana state line. When we kind of look at this, Diane, you and I were talking about the organization of these storms. Nothing really stands out as discrete right now, which would mean developing independent of other storms. It's all kind of just jumbled and messy together. Yes. Relatively speaking, tell those that are watching what that means when it's all kind of jumbled together.
It's really hard for one to stand out, to really kind of absorb everything and to take all the good ingredients, we would say, for us, what good as far as what a storm would think is those good ingredients.
Good ingredients for a storm to survive or thrive or develop.
Yes.
They're essentially competing for what what limited instability we have in the atmosphere.
Yes, yeah, and like we had said, there's not a lot of that storm energy out there, so our storms are just going to work with what they can find, but there's definitely a lot of competition there as those start to move across the state line.
Yeah, also worth noting, though, that as they pass into Ohio, we have a little bit more of a conducive environment to those storms, so it wouldn't be out of the question to see them increase, to see them strengthen, especially since we do have that orange area primarily in Ohio. We're expecting an uptick in those thunderstorms over the next few hours.
And that enhanced risk does include parts of our viewing area, especially down in Hancock County, parts of Wyandotte, Crawford County, Seneca County, and into Erie and Huron County. I'd say that risk overall is fairly high for some strong storms that are going to be coming into the area this evening. Very rare territory, Diane, as you mentioned. That enhanced risk has never been seen before in the state of Ohio in the month of January.
Yes, so we will definitely keep an eye to this. Like I said, it's just one of these days that you need to be weather aware. I know I don't want folks to be caught off guard. It's January, and we're talking severe storms. So even though you think, oh, it's just January, it's not going to happen. Like, we are watching this, and that's why we issued that alert day to give you that advance notice, because we're going to have impactful weather. Those winds, the hail. Of course, in January, hail's maybe a little bit easier. That cold air isn't that far away. Yeah. So even just watching out for that, and then that low-end tornado chance.
Quick run through one more time of that hour-by-hour forecast. Again, if you're trying to plan the rest of your afternoon and evening, a storm's going to be arriving into the area south and west of Toledo right around 4 o'clock. So within the next hour, that's going to be moving in. They're quick-moving storms. They're going to be crossing the I-75 corridor through 5 p.m., and this is going to be just before it actually gets dark. Sunset just after 5:30. So we want you to be cautious of that one. Some of the structure associated with these storms could be indicative of some straight-line wind damage and the potential that we may get a few isolated storms that do exhibit some rotation, which is why we can't rule out completely the threat of an isolated weaker tornado. But we just want you to be alert and prepared for the general threat of storms that could be strong rolling through the area. 6 p.m., they're moving east of I-75. They flush out of the area. I'd say, guys, by 7 o'clock, and John made a great point, by the time you go to bed tonight, this is going to be just in the rear view mirror. Distant memory. We'll be seeing those storm threats completely over with, and it will be cold enough that snowflakes do come into the area tonight and into tomorrow morning. So we'll keep those alert day threats really just through the early evening, and then we'll be able to see that calm down tonight.
Yes, so of course have the WTOL 11 weather app. I know we sent that push alert out, so a lot of you kind of tapped Seymour and then you found our stream. So of course we're happy that you're using that app. Use all those tools that are in that radar tab to your liking, because it's going to be helpful here as we go through this evening. So use that app. It's going to be a really helpful tool for you.
All right, we appreciate you joining us for this live session on YouTube or WTOL 11 Plus. Hey, if you thought it was pretty cool, let us know. Tell your friends, and of course, trust the WTOL 11 weather team. We are going to be on air, online, and on that WTOL 11 weather app when storms do threaten this afternoon. We appreciate you joining us on this rare January storm threat. Everybody have a great afternoon and evening, and we'll see you soon.